Good evening and welcome to the Verona Public Schools Board of Education meeting. It is May 10th, 2022, and we're calling the meeting to order. It's 7:04. And if everyone will please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The reading of the meeting notice. This meeting is being conducted in compliance with the open meeting session that the Verona Board of Education passed a resolution at its annual reorganization meeting held on January 4th, 2022. The meeting set forth the schedule of its regular meetings, which resolution was within 7 days of passage. The schedule was sent to the Verona Cedar Grove Times, the Star Ledger, the Township of Verona, and the VEA. Postings of this meeting setting forth the time, location, and agenda were posted at the Verona Board of Education office and on the Verona Public Schools District website. The Verona Board of Education operates under a consent agenda format. Any board member has the right to have an item pulled to be voted upon or discussed separately. Copies of tonight's agenda and resolutions have been made available to the public and the press. Mr. Cruz, can you do the roll call for attendance, please?
Sure. Mr. Walker,
Present.
Mr. Day,
Here.
Mrs. Drappi. So for the record, Mrs. Drappi is absent. Mrs. Prisco,
Here.
Mrs. Fresky.
Here.
We have quorum. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Fernari for the superintendent report.
Thank you, Mrs. Fresky. Just 1 second. Okay, so good evening, everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate some of our students. Congratulations to 2 of our Verona High School seniors, James McHugh and Annalie Ying, who were selected for recognition by the Essex County Superintendent's Roundtable for their academic excellence. Mr. Cogdill, Verona High School principal, and I joined the students and their parents at the award celebration held on May 4th. Congratulations to James and Annalie. Also, congratulations to 3 of our Verona High School students. They are John Schlossberg, and if I mispronounce names, my apologies, David Held and George Donnelly. These 3 young men are from the Verona Boy Scout Troop of America, Troop number 2, and they earned the rank of Eagle Scout, which is quite an accomplishment. So we congratulate the 3 young men. And also our DECA team went to the International Career Development Conference. They earned the 1st place rank in New Jersey and were among the top 20 DECA national winners. Again, James McHugh and Nick Jacobson were representing Verona High School. So thank you for all of our students, for all of the things they do. And there are so many more students that we, over the next few meetings, will be recognizing. But we wanted to make sure that these were brought out this evening. This week, our elementary schools are holding music concerts, and students have all worked very hard to prepare for these live concerts and are excited to share their musical talents with their parents, school staff, and classmates. The HBW Middle School and Verona High School concerts will also be held next week. It's wonderful for our students to have these opportunities to perform in front of a live audience after so long a period of time when this was not possible. I want to thank our music teachers, administrators, and all those who helped our students to prepare for these events. Our next diversity, equity, and inclusion subgroup committee meetings will take place during the week of May 23rd. Ms. Jody Shipper will be with us once again, this time in person. During that week, Ms. Shipper will also be working with us to gather additional data. In the coming weeks, we will be implementing a survey for staff and one for students in grades 7 through 12. Parents will be able to review the survey questions and will have the opportunity to give their child's school permission to participate. To be clear, parents will be asked to opt in and give their permission, and only those students whose parents have been who have granted that permission will participate. Other students will not. Again, only 7th through 12th graders will be able to take that survey. A staff survey will also be implemented, which is on a voluntary basis. As you know from our messaging, signage, and other means of communication, Saturday, May 14th from 12 to 3, p.m. is the Verona Cedar Grove Mental Health Festival. This event has been planned jointly between Verona Public Schools and Cedar Grove Public Schools. The response to the festival has been tremendous, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Moriello for his initiative and commitment to making this event happen for our communities. The rain date is Sunday, May 15th. That concludes my report for the evening, and board members, if you have any questions, please let me know.
I just had a quick comment and thank you for the report. I just congratulations to James and Annalee again for their academic achievement. Quite remarkable. And the other thing I wanted to flag out was the three young men that got Eagle Scout awards. I can say I was a Boy Scout, and I have 5 relatives that got the Eagle badge, and I was not one of the 5. I worked hard to become an Eagle Scout. It's very challenging, something I strive for. Didn't make it. So whenever I have the time, the ability to say congratulations to Eagle Scouts who battled and did everything they did to get those badges and those projects and many hours with their family and those fellow, troop members, it's a great achievement. So I just want to put a shout out for those Eagle Scouts, and that I'm jealous too.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Dr. Fenori? If not, we don't have any presentations this evening, so we're going to move on to the committee reports. First up, Mr. Walker, do we have Education Committee?
Did Jorge have a report to give tonight?
Yes.
Yep.
So, yeah, so I'll actually give that right now.
It wasn't on there. Or I tried to slip it by. It's like, I don't want to do the report tonight.
My bad. I don't have it on mine. Go ahead, Jorge. Sorry.
So good evening, everyone. I have a few updates tonight. One of the priorities for the business office is to equip our schools with the best resources and tools available to ensure that we continue enhancing the learning experience each student has in our classrooms. So with that being said, let's talk copiers. Resolution number 17 on tonight's agenda is a huge win for our students and teachers. The process of recommending this proposal was very thorough, and tonight it's an honor to present to you the very best for our schools. Currently, our district copier lease is a fair market value lease that ends on June 30th. The monthly cost is $3,664, plus an average monthly service plan cost of $1,550, which is a per page fee of 0.004 copy or print, and $100 for our software management system, totaling $5,314 per month. The new proposal is now a $1 buyout lease, which means that we'll own all 20 copiers at the end of the 60-month lease for $1. Each school will have, in this new contract, will have a color copier with a saddle stitch finisher, which will allow the schools to actually print in-house and have booklets to be able to present, whether it's actually at a fair or a presentation at a musical and do a bills list. So that's actually an additional savings that the schools will actually be able to do in-house. The monthly cost for this lease is now $2,424. The service plan now offers an unlimited printing option, whether it's black and white and color. And that's a cost of $1,327.59 for that unlimited service plan. And the software management system is included in this proposal. The total cost is now $3,752. That being said, the monthly savings that this lease contract actually provides the district is a monthly savings of $1,562. Annually, that's $18,744. And in the course of the life of this lease is $93,000, $93,720 to be exact, for those 5 years. Lastly, resolution number 19 is a proposal for our E-rate consultant to file and administer the emergency connectivity program application to secure USAC funding, which will allow all of our elementary schools to have one-to-one Chromebook devices, and also here at BHS. This concludes my business administrative report tonight. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Cruz on that?
I know this is like the third meeting we've talked about the copier, and now after all your hard work, we now have a signed agreement. I know you worked really hard on this. I know you came up in the finance committee with Mr. Walker and myself. I know you worked, some challenges here or there and some discussions, and at the end of the day, you're able to come back with a great agreement that provides some savings to the district. So it's sort of a win-win, and I believe we have some additional functionality, the dollar buyout, the unlimited printing, color. So besides having a good agreement, it's also providing the students some more resources and some more capabilities. So thank you very much for all your hard work. So.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Nope. So now we will move on to the committee reports. Mr. Walker with Education Committee.
Sure. So Sarah was with me for these, but she's not able to make it tonight. So the first part is we have a big policy batch for approval tonight. All of these are basically standard in that like every district across the state's going to be approving most of them, except the only one that's organic for us is policy 7250, which is the naming of facilities. We all read all the emails we get, and I believe that we'll get some kind of comment about that tonight. So I'm interested to hear those comments. We had one version of this particular policy that we voted on for the first reading last time. The second version is slightly different, but it was my understanding is this was recommended by Strauss Esme, which is the country that provides policy updates for probably 95% more of the districts in New Jersey. So that's the only organic one that's in the policy testing from the policy batch. The second point is that Verona schools are doing their New Jersey student learning standards testing this week, and all three schools, third grade through 12th grade, are doing that. We wish our kids the best of luck. I did have a chance to preview a draft version of the DEI survey that Dr. Fernari had mentioned before. A couple points are, the seventh graders, you have to be seventh grade or higher to participate, but it's also like a double, I guess, gatekeeper in that not only must parents sign their child in, but the kid has to also want to do it. So if you can't just say, I want my kid to do it, but if they don't want to do it, they also have to want to participate. So I saw the survey questions, and I thought they were extremely, I guess, tranquil is the word I would use. I didn't see anything that came anywhere close to being, something that was even remotely unreasonable for a 7th or 8th grader or even higher to discuss. And I think the schools are giving the kids 15 to 20 minutes for that particular survey, but I can't imagine it would even take that long for the vast majority of the kids. So I think it'll be something that in and out, but parents are going to have to confirm that they're signing a kid up, and the kid doesn't have to answer all the questions. They can answer whatever questions they feel like answering on that kind of brief survey. We talked about, Dr. Fernari talked about the mental wellness, I guess, festival or fair that's coming up this weekend. I'm looking forward to stopping by. I did ask a couple of questions. I asked if basically if a student has an IEP and they want to get into an elective that is for predominantly for populated with general education students, how do they go about doing that? And I was told that the master schedule basically is the gatekeeper for determining how a child can or cannot be entered into an elective. Of course, we know that the student's individual disabilities are something that have to be weighed in before looking to put them into an elective, but the master schedule is something that is going to be the thing that needs to get finalized first. And I will say that very, very, very few schools are going to have their master schedule for next year done now. It's something that usually happens early in summer. But most of the time it'll happen after when the summer break starts. I asked about a program that I was made aware of in 2014. That was some kind of a transitional program for kids with certain special needs for vacations or for other kind of transitions for life skills. And I was informed that the low enrollment was the reason that was no longer utilized or revitalized. I'd asked if the child study team, the guidance are aware of the new electives that Dr. Morio talked about, the film one and the business one. And because they have to be aware of it, obviously, in order to advertise this or promote this to kids. But again, once we get, it seems that they're going to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they're going to need to get that master schedule finalized, and then the counselors can reach out to parents and say, hey, why don't you encourage your child to be in this elective or that elective. And the other thing that came up was, it seems like the middle school, it seemed that there was consensus that the Amplify Math was the program that they're looking to go for, and the arguments seem very strong. And if there's anything else that you think I didn't mention that you want to bring up, either Dr. Miller or Dr. Morello, please jump in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Does anybody have any questions in regard to Mr. Walker's education report? Let's nope. All right, thank you very much. Athletic committee met. Mrs. Prisco, do you want to take that?
Sorry. Someone. Yes, we met, already was May 1st. It seems like it was just yesterday, but time is flying. Spring sports is moving along, and believe it or not, they're starting to wrap up as well with playoffs and semifinals and all that fun stuff. So they're all going well. Sports Booster Dinner is set for June 20th, which will be outside on the high school field again. Hopefully the weather will work out for that. On April 22nd, there was a faculty basketball game between the students and the faculty, which was led by Stella Shepherd, her club, the GLI, it's Girls Learn International Club. And it was the students, which were about 21 students that volunteered, as well as about 10 staff members. And the club is an empowerment club, which is meant to educate middle school and high school age students on education throughout the world, inequality, and overall human rights. They raised approximately $500. So congratulations to them on running such a great event. Lacrosse finals we were hosting the lacrosse finals this Saturday. I don't know if those games went underway because of the rain that we had, but we did have those scheduled for boys and girls. We are hosting the GNT semifinals baseball this Saturday here, the high school. And Verona will not be in the games, but those teams are still playing for the semifinals, which will be here on Saturday, weather permitting. And on Friday, Verona is playing Cedar Grove at Jackal Stadium or Yogi Berra Stadium, Friday the 13th. Gates open, I believe, at 6, and the game time is at 6:30. And it's only cash only, but it's always a great event for the students. It's always well attended. And this year it's on a Friday night, so the younger kids could stay for the whole game. And I think that might be all. Mrs. Freshy, did I miss anything else that we spoke on? I know you wanted to talk about DECA. You wanted to talk about that, right? So you want to brief on
Yeah,
that?
well, Dr. Fernari mentioned
Okay,
it.
so
So,
that's-
but for people who don't know, what DECA is, it is an extracurricular at the high school, and it's a very hands-on extracurricular where students are able to participate in real life business scenarios where they almost can do Shark Tank-like pitches. They have all different categories. And historically, students in Verona do very well with the DECA. And a lot of those skills are transferable when we talk about life skills and moving out of our bubble into college and beyond. So kudos to those students again.
I have one question on
Mr.
that,
Walker.
Pam. So for big events like that, the legacy game or the rivalry game at the Montclair State, do we offer busing to the student body if they want to attend, or is it you got to find a way to get your own ride there?
Believe it's only the team that gets bussed over. And then usually it's, the high school students get there and then the little kids will go with their parents. I don't think it's been ever offered to have busing.
And just for clarification, the games this weekend were canceled.
They were.
They were.
Thank you. Who would want to play in that rain?
And then lastly, community resources did not meet, so we're going to cross that off. That was a carryover from last meeting, but we did have a facilities meeting. Mrs. Drappi is not here tonight. I took Mr. Day's place on that committee, so I'm generally not on that. So I will do my best to reiterate what was talked about there. It was the official first meeting of our new facilities director, Mr. Natural, and it was great to meet him. So, and he had a very comprehensive, he had been working with Mr. Higgins to transition into the position. And I know Mr. Cruz worked with him as well to bring him up to speed on what was going on. So he did report out on the lockdown door strips, and they have all been installed. That was part of the referendum, if I am correct.
So it's separate. It was a security enhancement that we.
Oh, that
added.
was a security enhancement. Okay, so those are installed throughout the whole district. Another part of that security was shades for the window, a special kind of window shades that are easily like pulled down to block out any vision into the classrooms. And they are installing those in-house. So the original estimate was 18,000, and we don't need the install. So that saved the district $4,000 to do the installation in-house. Chief Kiernan met with to talk about the contact information and introduction to Mr. Natural to have that partnership going with this between the school, him being a new person, and our township. The FN Brown walkway, this was something we talked about at the last couple of meetings, and the material to do that walkway, there's a drainage issue that goes down the side of the building from the sidewalk area down towards the back. So all the material is on site, and the new sidewalk is going to go directly from the street and go all the way to the back of the school to meet up with the macadam. And we're waiting for proposals on the actual installation because we do have to make sure that it meets the ADA compliance, and we are getting the estimates on that. We got a little bit of an update on the solar landscape, which is the company that we're looking into to put possibility of putting solar panels on our roofs. And our new facilities director did oversee this project when he was working in Bogota, so he is familiar with the process and, you know, the correct questions to be asking in terms of that. We got an update from Train, and they are moving along with the last couple of items. That there's 2 or 3 minor items that are still outstanding. So they're working on getting those done. Let me see. 95% of our air conditioning is up and ready to go. And that last little 5%, the issues have already been identified, and we should be ready to go within the next 2 to 3 weeks. They did some testing over spring break. That's when the issues were identified, and they're moving forward. So that should be all up and running in the coming weeks. There's signs that have been replaced throughout the district. Boy, oh boy, this was a big meeting. This is an ongoing topic too. Part of the referendum was resurfacing our playgrounds, and the material at FN Brown and Forest Avenue schools started to lift up. So we're definitely still within the warranty period, and are contacting the manufacturer installer on that.
Brookdale is also part of that.
Oh, Brookdale is part of that too. I missed that. I'm sorry. Brookdale is part of that as well. My apologies. Oh boy, where are we? The auditorium lights and programming. So we're getting training on the operation of all the new lights because apparently they're a little more complicated. So that is coming. And lastly, we discussed the community garden, which is in a little area behind HBW, kind of where the old Terry's was. So there's a drain repair that needs to be done there. We're waiting for the estimates on that. And we did get a request from the community, the organization that helps run the community garden, about possibly putting a mural back there. So we're talking to them and making sure that everybody is on board with that. And Did I miss anything else? Okay.
Thing I
Please
wanted
don't
to
ask
add
me
was-
questions.
Well, no, not a question. This was just a clarification that the VHS gym floor is being repaired, technically supposed to start on the 9th, which is just Thursday.
Yesterday.
Yesterday,
That's
Monday.
What's today? Oh, today's, okay. yeah,
Today's the
okay,
10th.
yeah, Okay, I should know that. It's my wife's birthday and I'm thinking.
So did that start?
Okay. Yeah, sorry, yes,
Oh, good.
okay, so it's moving forward, okay. I just wanted to validate that, okay.
Jim, don't miss B and G anymore. That was too much for me.
I do have a quick
I
question.
think you
don't
did
know
a
if
good
you
job. I
can
don't have to
answer
show up
this.
anymore.
Oh, my God.
I just have a quick question regarding the AC, that 5%.
Yes.
Does that mean that 5% needs to be fixed in order for all of
No.
the AC to be working?
No, not at all.
Okay, good.
Is that 5%
95%
like-
of
is that
it
like
is
one
up and
room?
Okay.
running.
Is that one
and-
room or?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure that if it hits like all of a sudden we turn to summer.
Yeah, no, 95% of our
Yeah, that
buildings
was the
will all
power
be.
button. That was the, yeah.
Yeah.
no.
Does anybody
Two
else have
questions.
anything?
The first, you mentioned the train is almost finished. What is train? I don't have any idea.
It's the-
So Train is actually the company, the provider of the HVAC equipment. So they're, and then we have the installers, ECC, who's actually the contractor that's doing the installation. So both go hand in hand. They kind of like work a tandem on the project. So that the train component is actually some, when they went to test the system, they actually saw that certain components of some of the units failed. So they had to get those parts ordered to get replaced. So that's where we are with that.
So I guess, is it one building that has the
So that building in particular is Lanning. So it's to Pam's, Mrs. Prisco's point, the question that you came, that whether it's 95%, what does that mean? It's basically that there's actually one unit that actually provides cooling to a certain section of Lanning, and it might be two rooms or so.
classrooms?
Classrooms.
Okay.
Yeah. So on one side of the wing. So that's basically where the issue is right now.
If we have, if it became really hot tomorrow and we had the AC on in every room in Lanning, would it be strong enough where we'd feel the cooling in the two classes that may not have this?
I'm pretty
Service.
sure it might not be as cool as the
Mhm.
other classrooms, but with the ventilation and having, the classroom doors open, I'm pretty sure they will actually have access to cool off. from
Very
that.
good.
And the other part is that it's on the side of the school building that doesn't get as
shade side,
as
okay.
hot. Yeah, so it's shaded on that side. So we don't, if it is going to take a little longer than the anticipation, then we don't think it's gonna, we're gonna risk it. But the goal is to actually have it completed before, sooner rather than later. So I think that they mentioned that the parts was actually on route, and then we'll be able to address it immediately.
I thank you.
I know the solar panels were discussed with the new facilities manager, and that's something I'd be curious about, when he does his investigation with his background in Pagoda, what impact that would have on the new roofs that we had for the referendum, weight factors, all those kind of things. So I know that will be discussed further along with the B&G. But I know we had some really good questions from the public about that. And so just want to let you know, we'll be doing a thorough due diligence investigation on that and make sure if we make a decision to move forward with solar panels, that we have it all vetted out. So.
On the questions that actually came up, all of those are valid questions. I know one of the questions was whether the solar panels actually get, this penetration and screws going on the roof. We just had this, almost $30 million referendum with brand new roofs. We wouldn't want our roofs to get damaged from it. The way that the solar panels actually go on, there's no penetration. It's basically goes on some metal railing, and there's a cushion that goes underneath it. So it's just the added weight. So I believe is about 3 to 5 pounds per square footage. So before moving forward, this is actually just one proposal. We are going to do a formal RFP if our architect and once it actually gets vetted to say, yes, our building is structurally sound to take on the additional load. Then at that point, after additional tests are run, we could actually go into the RFP route and get the best proposal out there for that PPA agreement with a solar provider. So Solar Landscape is not the one that we're going with, just to be clear. It's just kind of like a presentation of what the possibility could be. And I think that there might be savings that will be greater once we go through the RFP route and look at different proposals.
Right, and during the referendum discussions, solar panels had come up, and some schools had roofs that were capable potentially to have, we talked about maybe with solar panel, but there's certain schools like, just say Forest Avenue, that was it's buried by the trees, it's got angled roofs, and so there might be some challenges. Those are the kind of things we'll have to talk about. So, yeah.
Mrs. Freshy, can I just ask one question regarding
Absolutely.
going back to Education Committee? Real quick, Capstone, was that discussed or has that started, and when will that start? It does, and that goes for the whole month for the senior students. Is that like the participation almost 100% of students, pretty much? Okay, great. And then the other thing I think we talked about too at one of our meetings was bringing back work study. Is that still something we're talking for the future? Okay. Yeah, okay.
Anything else, or are we good? Okay, it looks like we're good. So at this point, we're going to open it up for public comments that are on any of the agenda action items. So when you come up to the podium, to please state your name and your address for us. And there's a 3-minute time limit per person to speak. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Larry Iannuzzi, 89 Pease Avenue in Verona. And if I might, Mr. Walk, if I could just pass this over to you for distribution. Okay, good evening. Once again, thank you to the board and Dr. Fenari for allowing me the time to speak. I'm not accustomed to being on this side of the microphone, as I said to Dr. Fenari and to Lisa, that 39 years in Verona, I spent 25 to 26 of those years chair or co-chair of Verona Cares and the Verona Municipal Alliance Committee, along with Linnea Mathers. So I'm used to being on that side. So bear with me as I read through this. Members of the board and Dr. Fenari, and I'm also not aware of any current change in any policy or revision. This was as of a week or so ago. The policy you have chosen to entertain and vote on tonight, 7250, is unjust and unprecedented. There isn't a school district in West Essex County that has anything remotely as foolish and absurd. The current policy would allow a room, a building, or a structure within the district to be named after a dedicated member of the community who has provided outstanding service to the educational community of Verona. The recommendation would need to be reviewed by a committee and referred to the board members and the superintendent. The approval of such respectful honor would be given to the board, whom we already trust with facilities and our children's education. These 5 elected members and well sought out superintendent would have the best interests of the entire Verona population and not just their own opinions. The board would need to respect history and qualify the honorees' credentials and service to the community of Verona. In January of 22, I recommended that the auditorium at HBW be named in honor of an individual, Patrick S. Curcio, who turned the music department into one of the most respected departments in the state of New Jersey. Pat had tremendous help from several great teachers. He didn't create the magnificent department on his own. Pat served the township from 1978 to 2002, when Dr. Pryor orchestrated Pat's move from VHS, where Pat was the music department chair and band director, to HBW, where approximately 50 to 60 students played in the band. In a period of time, Pat built the band to 160 student musicians, and there were 3 different bands and 2 choruses. The current band teacher at HBW is a former student of Pat's. The principal at Lanning is one of the teachers from Pat's tenure at HBW. Pat interviewed and was involved in the hiring of Dave Tintle, Max Morton, and recommended Eric Lynch to be hired. Sadly, as a result of the recommendation from an outside third-party group unfamiliar with a small town like Verona, they are recommending that the district require a person to be dead for 10 years before they could be recognized for any such honor or tribute. There is no rhyme or reason to this foolish recommendation. Nothing substantiates the requirement they are proposing. Any current or future worthy individual would need to meet this new policy criteria.
Sir, I'm sorry, your 3 minutes are up.
We only have like 9 people here. Can our board give an extra minute or two since there's
That's a-
9 people here?
That's not my decision. That's a board decision.
Like, there's not people coming
If
in
not-
waiting to speak.
Back up. You can come back up. Lisa, I think we
Yeah,
can allow
I-
her to come back up if you want. Or you want to
Yeah,
continue on?
Mr. Iannuzzi, you could just finish. You could wrap
Finish
up.
up,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you for your courtesy. The new policy is ludicrous, thoughtless, and irresponsible. Listen to this excerpt. An honoree shall have been deceased for at least 10 years prior to being considered for such memorialization. This makes no sense. Who on this board plans to be seated here 10 years from now? I may certainly not even be around to bear witness on Patrick S. Curcio. The recommended policy is unreasonable, nonsensical, and injudicious. With all due respect, this board and its superintendent can surely amend the current policy without the ridiculous requirement that someone be dead, let alone for 10 years. Why not allow a recipient to receive the honor while they are alive instead of foolish posthumous award? Who benefits from a posthumous award? Wouldn't it be a joyful and compassionate experience for the recipient to partake in the honor, as did Tom Salito in 1994? If the new policy, such as the one you are proposing, gets passed without revisions and the 10-year deaths requirement stands, then this board is laughing in the face of the district's fine educators, students, and administrators. This board should be showing our students and their parents that they care about the history of Verona and what it took to get this district's music department in the place it is today. I never watched a game that Tom Salito coached, but I was there to see the joy in Tom Salito's face when the upper field at VHS was named in his honor. The Doc Gold's history of athleticism at the lower VHS field speaks for itself, and I'm not sure there is anyone alive today who knew Doc. But the athletes who play ball on that field respect the history that was left behind for them. I'm asking you to please consider abandoning the ridiculous new policy and allow an individual the opportunity to enjoy the honor and festivities while they are alive and well. A posthumous award is meaningless, and the board would be doing a tremendous disservice to those that performed with excellence over an entire career and who strove to develop the best student athletes, and musicians in Verona. I thank you, and I just passed along some information to you. There are 21 towns in Essex County. 12 towns state that naming and a memorialization of a building or a room can be based on outstanding service. Caldwell, Cedar Grove, North Caldwell, West Orange, Livingston, Milburn, Montclair, Upper Montclair, Glen Ridge, and Nutley. 8 towns have no policy for memorialization: Bloomfield, Essex Fells, Irvington, Maplewood, South Orange, Newark, Roseland, and Short Hills. Only 2 towns of 21 state that a person needs to be deceased: Belleville and Fairfield. These are not towns that Verona compares themselves with. Livingston has the most comprehensive and compassionate policy. Please look at the Livingston policy if you have an opportunity. I'll stay here or sit down, whatever the board feels is necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Iannuzzi.
You are welcome. Thank you.
So as you said, when you started off, that this was the first reading of the policy, and generally policies do have 2 readings, and that's exactly what it's for. So as the policy comes to the board, we're able to look at it, read it again, and make any adjustments to it. So this was adjusted, and we will be voting on the adjusted version of it. The adjusted version does remove the 10 years, but it still has to have somebody who has been deceased in it. So that is the version that we will be voting on tonight.
If I could jump in. So
Yeah, it goes through the education committee, which
So
Mr.
Phil-
Walker was on.
philosophically, I firmly believe that every aspect of a school district operation revolves around students. And I'm sure Mr. Curcios is, based on everything, I've never met the man, but everything I've heard of him has been positive. If it were a thing where we were going to name a facility or something in the Verona after anyone, I'd always be much more inclined to name it after a student that went through the program than for someone that was working for the district. But with that said, I have been persuaded by your argument about the policy and your research into all the other different districts' policies, because there could become a situation where, in the future, where everyone or all stakeholders would agree that there's a certain person that we'd want to name something after. So I think for that particular agenda item, Mr. Cruz, I'd like to pull that out for a separate vote. But I do philosophically believe that if anything, I'd be much more inclined to look to name something after a student than after an employee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Mr. Day, did you want to say
Saying,
something?
so we're pulling it for a separate vote, or are we pulling it till the next meeting when Mrs. Trappy's here?
So we're gonna pull it as a separate, so when we vote for the agenda items, it will be all except for 7, and then resolution 7 will have a separate vote.
Okay.
Anybody else from the public who has comments on agenda items only? If not, we are going to close public comments for resolution items. And next on the agenda is any discussion items that the board would like to bring up.
I pulled number 7 for a separate vote, but Jim just made a good point to me. Is there interest in the board to just pull this all together and then reinvestigate it, or do we want, because we vote, I'm happy to vote on this particular item, but if the board wishes to.
Well, because we just got these documents today, but I mean, it's really up to, I'm fine either way. I can vote today, or we can wait for Mrs. Trappy.
Mrs. Prisco, do you have a preference?
I mean, looking at all the, I know we went through Strauss Essman's policies, but looking at all the district policies from our surrounding districts in Essex County that was provided by Mr. Iannuzzi, I think ours might be a little bit extreme, and I would like to revisit maybe wording what we have. That's my personal, and looking at all this information further from the other districts in Essex County.
So I think what I'm hearing is that we want to table it for the next meeting
That's
and
correct.
when we have a full quorum.
Correct.
I would vote yes for this, yes. To
Okay, so
table it.
let's table number 7. And is there any other discussion? Okay, so if not, we are going to do a roll call.
Are there more public comments about agenda items?
No, I asked already. So we're going to move on to vote on resolutions. So we're going to table number 7. So I need a motion to approve resolutions number 1 through 19, excluding number 7.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Day,
Second,
second by Mrs. Prisco. And Mr. Cruz, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Walker,
Approve, yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
for the record, Mr. Strappy is absent. Mrs. Prisco,
yes.
Mrs. Fresky.
Yes.
We have quorum. Motion passed.
We have addendum resolutions. I need a motion to approve the addenda resolutions number 1 through 6. Moved by Mrs. Prisco,
If nobody second.
second by Mr. Day. Is there any discussion on 1 through 6? If not, Mr. Cruz, can you please call the roll on that?
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
is absent. Mrs. Prisco
Yes.
and Mrs. Fresky.
Yes.
We have quorum, motion passed.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We have that. And then lastly, we have public comments on any topic that the public would like to comment on. And again, if you come to the podium to please state your name and address, and there's a 3-minute limit per person.
Hello? Okay. Don Ciccolini, 14 Windermere Road. Question, Mr. Waka mentioned during his education report about the electives for special ed. And I was just curious why we wait so long to offer them. So I know our kids start to get messages from their counselors, like in February, March, about deciding what classes they want to take. So why are these two quote unquote special ed classes, like why are we waiting so long? Because wouldn't the whole population of Verona High School be able to take them, not just a special ed child? So it's not, you know, like you might get just like 2 kids in a class. So couldn't you open it up to everyone?
So the purpose of these electives being selective was because we had a certain population of students that were part of certain programs within our district that are growing up through our high school. So the electives that we're creating right now are really specifically for those group of students. If it fits into another special education child's schedule, that does give forth then the opportunity. But as I mentioned earlier, we make our special ed schedule around our special ed children. So those students that are being selected for those electives, because we're creating it for them so that they could be successful in it, are going to get first dibs into that. Now, could that be 2 children? Could it be 6 children? Could it be 10 children? It all depends on the other special education students' schedules and how those electives would fall in their play.
So then like, why would like a film class, for instance, why wouldn't everybody in the high school be invited to take a class like that?
Because,
Go ahead.
yep, because the modifications and the accommodations that we're putting toward that is to make sure that we're able to meet the educational needs of the students that we're developing it for. So there are certain students that some of the material in there may be too modified or too accommodated for them to feel engaged in regards to it.
Okay, because I know like when our kids go into, you know, whatever type of class, say computer class,
Exactly.
it's modified to suit them. So why wouldn't a class like that be modified to suit
Because
anybody else? I think it's like good engagement
it is.
with the rest of the school. So you're not just having special ed kids in a class like that.
Yep. And as I shared with our CPAC and as I shared in past meetings, you know, we don't have a problem with special education students necessarily passing our elective classes. Majority of our special education students gain credits in their elective classes.
Right.
The reason why we're establishing at this time is because we've exhausted the ones that children can be successful in that are being given at a general education level at this point. So what we needed to do, because the programming design, our vertical articulation of programming is over the next 2 years, we have to implement some more restrictive electives in order to meet the needs of the students that need those electives.
Okay. Could someone else take it if they wanted to? Or it's
If it
not
fit-
even like
Well,
it's not even on the table?
so it's not an IEP driven
Okay.
elective.
Right.
So when a program is not an IEP class driven program, anybody can take it, general education and special ed. So you do have the opportunity of other students taking it if they choose to, but the students that we're developing it for will get first dibs on it.
Right, right. Because if you're gonna maybe offer a business class or something, someone else might.
Yep. I mean, we're not closing the door.
Mhm.
Right now, we're concerned about making the classes for the population that we know we need to make it for.
Mhm.
And just like any elective for any student, the electives that are given during those class periods are the ones that the children will have offerings from.
Right, right. Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thank you for coming up.
Thank you
again.
very much.
And just one other point of clarification with the timing. We also know anything that we added in this new budget, we couldn't actually act on until we were sure the budget was approved. And that was done at our last meeting. Although we've had all of these plans in the works, we couldn't actually act on anything, you know, the hiring of the staff or putting kids in classes until we actually.
And also to piggyback on what you're saying, Dr. Fenari, we also have to write the curriculum. We have the teachers for them. We have to write the curriculum over summer. The curriculum has to get board approved and those type of things too. So that's why the classes are there. They're going to be there for our students, but we're still in the process of creating them.
Are there, and I don't know the answer, are there pre-packaged curriculum that have modifications that are available for purchase from educational service providers for things like electives?
So I don't know the answer to electives. I know we do have it for core content classes, but for our electives, we do a lot of creating of our own electives. We do use resources from other school districts who may have implemented this type of programming and already have a curriculum. So, my supervisors reached out to those districts to get those curriculums to see how we can modify them or if we can turnkey it with what they have already created.
Very good, thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public? Hi.
Good afternoon. Oh, good afternoon. I don't even know what day it is today. Good evening, guys. Gina Signorelli, 26 Valley View Road. I understand class sizes can be different in elementary schools and there are different zonings for schools, but why aren't the ratios similar amongst the schools and why aren't there any teacher aides in the larger classrooms? Why does my daughter have to be at a disadvantage from going a small class size? For instance, Lanning has about 16 kids. Again, we moved about a year ago. I know Brookdale is almost like a private school versus coming to FN Brown where there's like 25 students, again, just because we moved.
Thank you. Does anybody want to speak to that? Because
Yeah, so that's a challenge in every school district where there are neighborhood schools, which we do have in Verona. We've been trying to be creative as parents have asked for their children to attend another school. That's something that annually the district reviews. And if there's room at the other school that they would like their children to attend, we do entertain those kinds of requests. But when you are in a neighborhood school setting, very often you're going to find a disparity in the class sizes because there are different families that have a different number of children. The FN Brown community is a larger community, whereas the Brookdale community is a smaller community. And that brings its challenges too, because, in the Brookdale community, we've got grade levels that have only one class. And sometimes that one class is large. So, we do understand that it's a challenge. And it's certainly not a challenge that's unique to Verona, but as the district continues to look at enrollment, we try to find solutions to that. In some instances, there are paraprofessionals, more than one, depending upon what a student's IEP may have included in it that may, increase the number of adults, the student to adult ratio in a classroom. But that doesn't necessarily mean it happens in every single class. So we certainly hear you and understand your question.
Is zoning going to be re-looked at? If FN Brown is such a larger school or are you looking at aides? Because I know right now, again, my daughter's going from 16 kids in her class and God bless her teacher right now because she's an amazing teacher. Shout out to Ms. Pesce. But when you have 20 something kids, you can't focus that much. And with the education going on with COVID and all the delays, I feel like it's a huge disadvantage. And again, I understand your point. It was brought up to us about going back to staying at Lanning. But since we moved and we're close to the school, we wanted to be, we decided to do it. So I'm just, as far as aides, are we looking at that?
Strange things. Our board policy indicates that when a class gets to be at the benchmark is 25 students, that the district looks at whether or not to split the class, add an additional adult to the class, usually in the form of a paraprofessional. But that's the class size number that's currently in our board policy. So, that's something that the district has certainly looked at before, and I'm sure they will again.
Okay, appreciate that. Sure. Thank you.
If I could ask a question, are we still having trouble finding aides? I know a lot of districts are. Are we still having trouble finding the
Dr.
aid
Moore?
pool?
I mean, currently, right now, we do have 20 third-party vendor paraprofessionals. So I am interviewing people who come through Track, but they're not coming in like they have in the past.
Is there anybody else from the public who would like to make a comment? If not, we will close public comment portion of the meeting. And that brings us to the end of our meeting. The next special meeting will be held on Tuesday, May 26th, beginning with a confidential section at 6 PM, followed by the public session at 7 PM in the HB Whitehorn Middle School auditorium. So we're back at the middle school for May 26th. And with that, we are going to adjourn the meeting. It's 7:59. I need a motion.
Well, I just say May
Nope.
26th is a Thursday. 24th.
Oh,
Okay. I was
Typo.
going crazy because it's a relative's
catch.
birthday and I know that's a Thursday.
so Tuesday, May 24th at the HBW Whitehorn Auditorium at 7 PM. We'll fix that in the minutes. Thank you, Mr. Day. Good catch. And I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mrs. Prisco,
Second.
second by Mr. Day. Everybody in favor, please say aye. 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 And it is exactly 8 o'clock.